So hello friends, today we will be discussing the next topic of basics fundamentals of cell pathology, that is adaptations. A long time back in our videos, if you accidentally understand or remember that we had told you, once the cell is under stress, it will try to adapt. It will try to adapt. And adaptations can be of various types. It can be a biochemical adaptation, it can be a morphological adaptation, it can be a structural protein adaptation. Cell has various ways to do this sort of adaptation to the stress, and the stress can be anything. It can be chemical stress or physical stress, so the pressure stress also. Today we will be discussing the cellular adaptation. Okay. Now a cell will adapt. Again, that story is cell can adapt by showing various changes in its processes. So if I write, let us write for you cell adaptations. The cell adaptations is the way the cell has to respond to that stress. And when this, I want to say this in advance before we start that apoptosis and necrosis. Uh, when the cell is not able to cater, or the cell is not able to counteract to that stress, then finally the cell will go into necrosis. Okay. So right now we are talking about the stress has happened. A stress has happened, and that stress is now stimulating or inducing the cell to undergo a morphological modification, to undergo a biochemical modification, so that it can survive. So what sort of adaptations can a cell show? What sort of adaptations can a cell show? A cell can show you atrophy. A cell can show you hypertrophy. It can show you hyperplasia. It can show you aplasia. It can show you, it can show you what else can show you. There are so many things it can show. It can show you metaplasia. It can show you dysplasia, isn't it? So we will have to read those. We have to know the important thing in these exams right now. What is important coming from the, I have seen the papers, previous year's pattern, is they're asking some definition sometimes also. Metaplasia also, there was one of the question in the past year paper, I think, from the previous year's pattern papers, that they are asking about the definition of metaplasia, or they are confusing you with the differentiation. What is differentiation? What is redifferentiation? So let us start with first one. First type of cellular adaptation, that is atrophy. Atrophy means, A means without, trophy means growth. So that means this is a cellular adaptation, or it is that type of cellular adaptation in which there is either, write one word, decrease in cell size, or decrease in number of cells, which is leading to the decrease into the size of that tissue, isn't it? I will be telling you what I mean. Or decrease in the weight of the tissue, or it can be decrease in the size of organ itself. That is also dependent on cells. So I think that's not good to write, because organ is made up of cells. So if you're decreasing the size of cells, no, naturally there will be a decrease in the size of the organ. Yeah. Okay, friends. So atrophy is happening because my functions of my cells is getting decreased. I am having a decreased function. So what is happening in atrophy? So if you are decreasing the size, now this was a cell, and this cell was, the size is this, and now it has reduced to this size. That means the cell should destroy its proteins. If you want to become small, you destroy your proteins. Destroying your proteins will help you decrease the size, isn't it? You have to decrease the size. How will you decrease? Your cell is made of proteins, and you have read in your basics, long time back in your lower kindergarten, that they are the building blocks of your life, isn't it? So yeah, they are building blocks of the cells. They actually make the cellular material, the cellular mass, the cellular, architecture also done by the protein. So if you are degrading them by the process of DASH, the pathway I told you is ubiquitin proteasome pathway. If you are using that pathway to degrade the proteins of the cell, will lead to atrophy. So what is happening? The proteins of the cell are degraded in any way. So for example, if I want to give you multiple examples, okay, to understand very nicely this concept. So first, what is the definition? You have to write. The definition is if I am having the decrease in the tissue mass, or if I am having a decrease in the size. Now, decrease in the size or decrease in the tissue mass should be directly attributed to what? The predisposition should be to the cytoskeletal degeneration or cytoskeletal degradation. If, for example, these are the pillars of your cells, these are the pillars of your cells, they are supporting your cells, and now I am tagging them because ubiquitin tags I am applying the ubiquitin tags. I am applying ubiquitin tags, and wherever the body is able to find this ubiquitin, it will drag it and then with joining the proteasome and destroy it. That is the way we are destroying the proteins. And by other way, there can be a sort of autophagy also. There can be autophagy also. So in either way, you will be decreasing the size of the tissue. Or I can do another thing. Why I don't do one thing, that I am saying the destruction. Let me talk about the production. I am not producing more proteins. If I am not producing more proteins, that means I am decreasing the cell size. That means I am decreasing the cell mass, isn't it? Common sense. Or if I am increasing the number of apoptosis, if I increase the apoptosis, if I decrease, see, this tissue is made up of individual cells. This is made up of individual cells. Take them as cell, okay? Take them as cell. Now, individual cells, I start doing apoptosis. So if I kill 5 cells by apoptosis, that means size will become this much. Size will become this much, isn't it? Now, let us give you an example. First, let me tell you. Now, this was my, for example, what to say. For example, this is a cell. And this cell is receiving a nerve supply, and that nerve supply, or this nerve supply is producing neurotransmitters on its cell surface. So this is a nerve, and this nerve is supplying this tissue, and it drops its neurotransmitters on its surface. Okay, can I say now you are letting this cell to work? You are letting this cell to work. You are telling this cell through this nerve that you have to produce something and something, or you have to do any sort of a metabolic process, or you have to stop something, do that desired work, what it has been programmed for. But what now happens? Listen, I am giving it a hormone. So hormone isn't the hormone making this cell active? Isn't it keeping this cell active? Isn't it keeping the cell active? Isn't it its cytoskeletal working? Isn't its endoplasmic reticulum working? So will it give a nice consistency, a nice architecture to these cells? Because it's a working cell. A working cell will have nice muscles, isn't it? A working cells will have nice muscles, isn't it? Nice muscles. Working cell will have nice muscles, like you are going to the gymnasium. Now in the gymnasium, you are, you are taking the loads in your biceps, and now you are exercising. So what will you have? I will be talking about that. That's a physiological hypertrophy. That's a physiological hypertrophy of that muscle. Okay. So if you are taking, so that means you are acting, that means hormone is not only acting as a, you have learned it in your basics of physiology. Hormone is not only acting, let me write the statement. Hormone is not only acting as that type of a message that you have to only make, it's also secondarily giving the cell an effect of remaining what? In its own shape. So if I have an increased hormonal stimulation, or if I have a very optimum hormonal stimulation or cell, the cell will be living because it's communicating. And whatever is living will try to make, maintain its, maintain its architecture, maintain its internal functions. Okay. So this cell will remain in a very nice, and there will be a nice shape. But what if, in case, if I have from any cause, I, for example, take an example in case of hypopituitarism. In hypopituitarism, what is happening? My pituitary gland is not functioning. Now, if you know the HPOA axis, what is happening? The hypothalamus is releasing the releasing factor, and that releasing factor is stimulating the pituitary. Any sort of pituitary beat, that will depend. You are doing with the anterior or posterior. I'm generally taking right now the pituitary. So pituitary will tell what? It will tell the adrenals. Let me go directly to adrenals. Okay, right now. So it will go to the adrenals, and adrenals, it will tell through the hormone. It will tell the adrenals to produce another thing. Okay, to produce, for example, cortisol. So it is telling the adrenals through the ACTH to produce cortisol, a stress hormone. So that means it's only happening when I am having a very nice and compliant pituitary. Very nice and compliant pituitary. If this pituitary is not working, that means there will be no factor releasing, messaging the adrenals, and that means adrenal will also not be able to produce the cortisol. This is the thing which is happening with the hypopituitarism. Now we know, if I take three organs in one relation like this is pituitary, this is your thyroid, and this is, let me take two first. Okay. Now pituitary is not functioning. Now pituitary was producing what? Thyroid stimulating hormone. That means it has to stimulate the thyroid. Pituitary is producing the thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone is telling the thyroid to produce T3 T4, to produce T3 T4. Now if I'm not able to produce TSH, means I'm telling hypopituitarism. That means pituitary is not functioning. That means pituitary is not working. That means it's not able to produce TSH. That means it's not able to tell the thyroid that please produce T3 T4, resulting in the atrophy of thyroid gland. The thyroid gland will become atrophied. This is the concept of atrophy. You were not able to produce a hormone. You were not able to give us hormonal stimulation to this part. What happened? This part became degenerated. And that is what is happening actually in us also. Once we go to the gymnasium or we are doing an exercise, we do an exercise of biceps, we do an exercise, we do any legs exercise, you will see, you will have hypertrophy of that area because that part is working more, that part is doing more metabolism, that part is producing more metabolites even, which are actually acting as a dilator for that area. So hypopituitarism is not able to produce the pituitary hormone. For example, in this case, the thyroid stimulating hormone will not be able to stimulate the thyroid, will not be able to tell the thyroid that you have to produce what? T3, T4, will not be able to maintain the organ shape and size. Same thing happens in the hypopituitarism in the adrenal cortex. When we see the adrenal cortex, if this is the pituitary, it is talking to the adrenal cortex via what? It produces ACTH, that is adrenocorticotrophic hormone. This adrenocorticotrophic hormone will tell the adrenal cortex to produce stress hormones. It's not able to produce. What will happen? First thing, that is a secondary thing, that what is happening functionally. We are talking right now about the structural anatomical thing. It's not able to stimulate this. What will happen? Adrenal cortex will get atrophied. Are we able to understand, guys, what is the importance of atrophy? Okay. Now, it's not only that we are having these, there can be physiological atrophies also. There are physiological atrophies also, which I will be discussing. Let us first tell you the abnormalities. Okay, we'll be telling you the normal ones. There are one or two. Second thing I can say is, I have a patient. I go to the neurology now. In the neurology, I have a disease that is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Okay. It's a lower motor neuron disease, LMN. It's a motor neuron disease, lower motor neuron actually. Now, if I am not having these neurons, if I am having any deficiency of any myelination problems of the lower motor neurons, that means I will not be able to communicate with the muscles which they are supplying. So they were supplying a muscle. They were supplying a muscle. And now this muscle is not getting what? This muscle is not, the nerve is a problem. Muscle was okay. Nerve is a problem. Nerve is a problem. Nerve is deficient. What will happen? You will not be receiving, you will not be having what? The skeletal muscle will not work more. That means your skeletal muscle will become like this. It will become atrophied. So skeletal muscle atrophy is seen in amyotrophic lateral sclerosis because of decreased stimulation of the muscle fiber. The muscle fiber is not able to work, finally leading to the atrophy. So skeletal muscle atrophy. Another example we have, you know, if you are in your pathology, I think you have read, maybe if you remember, uh, you are not having a very nice perfusion. If you're not able to maintain a very nice perfusion to a area, that area will finally get atrophied. Okay. For example, if a patient is there, if I have a patient, this is my brain. Okay. So this is my brain. So what is happening? This is a carotid artery and it is supplying the cortex. I have an anterior cerebral artery. Okay, ACA. If I am an ACA. Now this ACA, for example, has any sort of luminal obstruction. Any sort, it can be atherosclerosis. So let me take atherosclerosis of carotid artery like this. Atherosclerosis of carotid artery. If I have atherosclerosis of carotid artery, that means I'm not able to supply the blood to the cerebral hemispheres. That means my cerebrum will become atrophied. Okay, so in case of carotid artery atherosclerosis, the blood is not able to, we are not able to maintain the perfusion, will lead to finally the cerebral atrophy. So it leads to cerebral atrophy. Okay, so you are not giving it food, that means it will not survive. It will not be able to maintain its shape. Okay, is it okay, friends? Okay, so this much is clear. This much is clear. Okay. So also marasmus. Going to this food, you can remember a best example, that is marasmus. Have you seen the marasmus patient? The marasmus patient is not able to have what? Have you seen is, he's having a very less protein mass, isn't it? So that can be also an example of, or you're not joining a gym, so your muscles will not be so much. So that's actually a physiological atrophy I want to talk. But right now I'm talking about uh, pathological atrophies. Okay. So pathological atrophies, physiological atrophy is your, uh, muscular physiological atrophy, which happens after you are doing an exercise. Okay, you are doing an exercise, and your muscles, they will need more blood, they will need more glucose, so they will produce their own local side vasodilators to get that food, and they will also get hypertrophied because they are working more, they're producing more metabolites, they are also functionally active at that point. Okay, that is a physiological atrophy. Or another physiological atrophy can be, it can be, uterus. If I go into OBGYN, uterus, what happens in the uterus? Uterus shrinks. Once the delivery is over, uterus will shrink. That is a physiological atrophy. First, you were having a physiological hypertrophy in the uterus when you were ready for a conception. When you were ready for a conception, your uterus was what? Under the hypertrophy. More and more amount of blood vessels are coming there. More amount of glandular nature of the uterus was becoming at that time when you were ready for the conception. And right now, after the parturition, after the delivery of the fetus, of the baby, the uterus will become physiologically atrophied, and that is one of the example. Or atrophy of the organs, okay, between your webs between your fingers, okay, this atrophy of these regions, that is also happening in the fetal life, intrauterine life. Okay. Now, I told you this was all about, we were talking about metabolism, whatever examples we said, the decreased hormone, the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the decreased perfusion to the brain, the nutrients. I want to tell you, there can be also, if these are the two cells and I am running an artery in between them, there is an artery in between them, and what is happening? Any sort of a hematoma breaks here. Hematoma is coming here. Hematoma is the collection of the blood. Okay. So hematoma is coming here and it is compressing. Will it compress it or not? Will it compress it or not? It will compress it. So any local pressure thing can also lead to the atrophy. Okay. So for example, I have in the urology, if I go into the urology, we have what? In case of hydronephrosis, for example, there is reflux of the things back into the cortex, renal cortex and medulla. So if I have a reflux, for example, due to any cause, I'm having a reflux of the contents. What will happen? The renal cortex and renal medulla, they will get atrophied because of the pressure. Because you are increasing the pressure of the lumen. The lumen of the pressure will lead to what? This urine is getting what? This is compressing. This is compressing the cortex and medulla. Once you are having a reflux due to any cause, so that will cause an increase, any sort of increase in the intraluminal pressure will lead to the backflow of the urine, and that urine will compress the cortex and the medulla, and finally leading to their atrophy. I can also call this as pressure atrophy. It can be a pressure atrophy. I'm not letting the cells to survive, not increase their size. Or for example, if my pancreatic duct, going to the gastroenterology, in the pancreatic duct, this is my pancreas. So in the pancreatic duct, if I have any sort of a sclerotic thickening in the pancreatic duct, or if I have any secretion which is not able to move forwards, the secretion is not able to move forwards, what will happen is this secretion will become, for example, it becomes thick. It will occlude the lumen. It will occlude the lumen of the pancreatic duct, and it will lead to increase in the back pressure. Now the back pressure is increasing. And now the exocrine part of this pancreas will get atrophied. Exocrine part will get atrophied. So how many examples? How much significant is this atrophy? Isn't it? And this thing can further proceed to pancreatitis, chronic pancreatitis, because slowly and steadily it will lead to fat necrosis, islets necrosis, and finally a type 1 diabetes mellitus. Okay, how we will understand? And all those things which are related to the any dysfunction of the pancreas will manifest at the time with this pathology. Okay, so how we will understand, guys? Okay, so it's fine. Is the screen visible? Okay. Now tell me one thing. Um, I haven't shown you a photograph of this. Can we see if I have an image for you about the atrophy. Very nice image. If we see the brain, it's the lateral view, and this is the superior view. In this image, from your neuroanatomy, I think the dissection of brain, if you have done, they have removed the meninges have been removed. I'm not able to see the meninges right now here. So the meninges are not there. So what will you appreciate? You are seeing the gyri. These are the gyri, isn't it? And these are the sulci. These are the sulci. This is the gyri or gyri, whatever you call. So this is your gyri. Neuro is so tasty, isn't it? Such a nice subject. So this is the gyri and this is the sulci. Can you see and you appreciate from this image that the gyri is become narrower. Normally it's not a normal brain. The gyri is become narrower and the sulci have widened. There is a widening of sulci. The sulci have widened. So much prominent widening. So there is widened sulci. So narrow gyri, widened sulci. Atrophy. It's an atrophy of brain. Can be due to any pathology. Okay. So this is the atrophy of brain which I have, and histological images. If I have anyone, no, I don't have. So in the histological images also, you'll be appreciating the size will be different. Those have. Okay. There was a disease in the there was a channel disease, that was the cystic fibrosis. Okay, CFTR protein problem. What was happening is I am having a thickened secretion. My secretions are become thickened. In the cystic fibrosis, my secretions are getting thickened. So in the cystic fibrosis, when you are getting a thickened secretion, that means the ducts will become big first. The ducts will become dilated. If you have more bigger secretions, the secretions are thick. Think of those secretions like a stone, a lith. Okay, so it behaves like a lith. I can say behaves like a lith. Lith means a stone. So you should think, I'm not saying it's lith, but I'm saying it's behaving like that, an obstructive scenario. So will lead to a dilated duct. And finally, under the microscope, you will appreciate some eosinophilic material because it's all proteinaceous. Okay. So like that, you can have some, lipofuscin pigment in the liver also, or you can have, that things can you see. Okay. So if you see, I want to say an important point. If you see a lipofuscin pigment, that is the wear and tear pigment. Okay. If you see that pigment in atrophy, okay, we call it brown atrophy. Okay. So if someone is having an atrophy and also a lipofuscin, we say it's brown atrophy. Brown means lipofuscin is showing us that. I don't have an image, I think. Last time I downloaded it for you. Let us see. I had that image. That's giving us a brown color. Where is that image? I had that very small image, I think. No, it's not here. Let's not waste time. Let's come back. So, so this is the concept you have to remember about the atrophy. Okay. So, atrophy, what examples for atrophy? So you have, you can have this, can we say that when we are not using any sort of muscle, do you know that when there is any sort of a denervation, in denervation, if you cut the nerve, if any sort of a nerve damage is there, so this nerve was supplying this, it's so simple. It was supplying this muscular tissue. If I have denervation of a muscular tissue, it will lead to atrophy of that muscle. It will lead to atrophy of this muscle. Exactly same like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. That there also you saw the loss of lower motor neuron was leading to the skeletal muscle atrophy, isn't it? So these are the concepts you have to remember. And also, if you are doing more amount of apoptosis, you will be appreciating what? You will be appreciating atrophy. Are you able to understand? It's all about sizes and lengths and everything. Okay. And this brown atrophy you are appreciating in the elderly population. Okay, in the elderly population you will be appreciating this. Can sometimes it's said that it's a normal age related finding. Okay, sometimes say that the normal age related finding. Okay, so I think you have understood this concept. There is nothing else. There can be many examples. These are significant examples which can be asked in the exam. A denervation atrophy, an ischemia causing the atrophy, any hormonal. You're not able to provide the hormonal stimulation, or even in the marasmus that you are not able to provide the nutrition. Okay. Okay, friends. So let us. You know. Um, this atrophy, we was one point I want to add for your knowledge is we take atrophy always that it is no, it can't be any associations with the cancer. Sometimes we think because we think metaplasia, dysplasia, hypertrophy, we think these can be a uh, association with it, but it has been seen that atrophy is a pre-malignant condition. We used to see in the past, we used to say that it was a benign condition, isn't it? In the past we used to say it was a benign condition, but now it is said that it is pre-malignant condition. Pre-malignant means has a potential to cause carcinoma, has a potential to get itself into a uncontrolled proliferative state. So if you have a pre-malignant condition, for example, I will be telling you pre-malignant condition in endometrial carcinoma. In endometrial carcinoma, we have two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is happening because of the endometrial hyperplasia. But in type 2, there is endometrial atrophy. Okay. What is happening in endometrial, I should say carcinoma, we have two, type 1, type 2. Type 1, don't write it Roman. Let us write it in 1 and 2. So type 1 is happening because the female is having more amount of estrogen. That estrogen is stimulating the endometrium. Okay, and that endometrium will tell the estrogen the estrogen will tell the endometrium to undergo endometrial hyperplasia. Okay, in type 2 is having an endometrial atrophy because they have a p53 gene mutation, and then you have what? Type 2 endometrial carcinoma. Just remember, association type 2 is atrophy, type 1 endometrial hyperplasia. So atrophy, you should at least remember one pre-malignant condition, that is endometrial carcinoma. Let us go to the hypertrophy. Number 2. Hypertrophy is when I have an increase in the cell size, that increase in the cell size, one cell, leading to the increase in the cell size of the organ. And finally also, subsequently also, and simultaneously, I can say, producing more weight. So with one cell, you increase the size of the cell. That means you will be increasing the more amount of protein. That means you will be making more cytoskeleton proteins. That means you will finally ending up with an increased weight gain. Cellular weight gain. So why I was not so in hypertrophy, we said in the muscles, we are seeing hypertrophy. That's a physiological hypertrophy. So first I will tell you hypertrophy was doing this. It was increasing the size of the cells, and that will increase finally the weight of the cells also. And that should be directly attributed to the increase in the that the proteins which are actually helping the cells to remain in that very nice structure, that is a structural protein. Okay. Now hypertrophy can be two types. You can have a physiological hypertrophy and you can have a pathological hypertrophy. Physiological hypertrophy, you have seen, I have told you to remember two BOO. What is BOO? Breasts and uterus. So what happens in the under the influence of progesterone, the breast is getting increased in the pregnancy, the breast mass is increasing, the glands are proliferating, you have more amount of production of lactiferous ducts are increasing. So these all are happening together and finally giving a the size of the breast increases in the pregnancy. Same happens for the uterus, endometrial proliferation, glandular proliferation, glandular hyperplasia. So that will also come in the hyperplasia, finally leading to, because if I increase the number of cells, that will finally increase the organ, isn't it? So I can also say that hyperplasia is causing hypertrophy. If I'm increasing the number of a cell, so that will finally increase the size. Like you're inflating a balloon, slowly, slowly you are adding some volume of air, and that volume of air is finally giving you a big appearance of balloon. So think like that, little cell you are adding, that means you will be increasing the size. So I can say hyperplasia is the number of cells you are increasing will finally lead to the hypertrophy. Okay. Now I am doing what? I'm doing, I'm in gymnasium. I told you I'm in a gymnasium. The muscles will get hypertrophied. The skeletal muscles will work more. Then finally giving us a muscle hypertrophy. Skeletal muscle hypertrophy. Skeletal muscle hypertrophy. Are we able to understand? So these can be examples of physiological hypertrophies. Uh, Now, why hypertrophy will happen pathologically? Why hypertrophy will happen pathologically? The best example I have been reading from the books, is the left ventricular hypertrophy, the favorite cardiology. Where is that image? So this is the cut section of the heart. If you check this, this is what? Let us show you like this. If you see, the what happened to this, got cropped. So if you see this, can we see the increase in the muscle mass in this ventricle? So they have cut the heart. Okay, this is the normal heart. So normal lumen was this much. You know what they have done? I will tell you. This is the heart. Okay, this is the heart like this. So you are looking at here. So what they have done, they have cut this. Okay, they have cut this like this. And now they're putting it here. So you have atria and you have ventricle. You have atria and you have ventricle. Are we able to understand? They have cut a cut section. Okay, it's not a sagittal section, it's a transverse. So that you can see the atria and ventricle also. So that when you turn this, you can see both atria and ventricle. So what will happen? You are seeing increase in the number of what? See how much size has reduced. This should be a big, this should have been a ventricle. This should have been a ventricle for the filling purpose. But this ventricle is now occupied by the hypertrophy. It is occupied by the muscle. Why this is happening, by the way? There is a pathophysiology around it. The physiology is that. Let me say like this. Let me bring this image here. Let me make it more comfortable so that we can understand. Now see guys, talking about this is the left ventricular hypertrophy. In the left ventricular hypertrophy, the cause is the hypertension, systemic hypertension. In the hypertension, what is happening? Now see, you are increasing the workload. In hypertrophy, you are increasing the workload. That means my heart has to work more against a resistance. My heart has to work more against a resistance. That resistance for example, this is my left heart. Okay, this is my left heart. Okay, it's the left atrium and left ventricle, and I am connected to this is my aorta. Now systemic vascular resistance is so much that my heart has to pump more so that I can send the blood to the demanding organs. So what will happen? You will have to work more. That means once you are increasing the total peripheral resistance, the systemic vascular resistance, the peripheral vascular resistance is increasing. That means I have to work more, isn't it? That means I'm increasing the afterload. And that afterload also, I am having also preload is more. If I have a more preload, that is I have to work more to throw that volume out, isn't it? Are we able to understand? Okay. So what will happen? This left ventricle has to work more, so it has to produce more muscles. If it has more muscles, then only it can pump the blood. You are more muscular, that means you can do more work. Why this happened, sir? Again, I am telling, because you increase the resistance due to any cause. Systemic vascular resistance got increased. The vessels, the pipe is getting so narrow that you have to throw something out. That means you need more pump, you need more power, you need more energy to do that. So ventricular hypertrophy, what will happen? The ventricle will show changes. It will increase the genetic. Once you have more amount of resistance, the genetic expression gets increased. Of what? Sarcomeres will increase the transcription. The sarcomeres will increase the transcription. They will increase the genetic expression of what? Increasing these muscles. To make these muscles more thicker. So you are getting a sarcomeric, increased sarcomeric genetic expression. Increased sarcomeric genetic expression leading to the formation of multiplication of sarcomeres. These are sarcomeres. That will depend now, is it a concentric or is it another type of hypertrophy? But here right now I am telling a general concept that you are increasing the mass of this muscle. That means there should be more amount of cytoplasm also. That means there should be more amount of mitochondria also. There should be more amount of DNA. So there will be more amount of DNA. There will be more amount of mitochondria. There will be more amount of cytoplasm. So this is the concept behind this beautiful, this pathophysiology, that you have to, once you are having this hypertrophy, you should know the cause also, why this is happening. Okay. Or I can tell you, I can give you another example. Physiology, this is a pathological. First, I should tell you this is a pathological hypertrophy. Physiological, if you remember, skeletal muscle exercises. Any sort of a weight training exercise you are going. Okay, that can be a physical hypertrophy. Okay, and I told you another example was, what was another example? Pregnancy, uterus, breast. That can be the example. If you another concept in surgery, once we are removing, for example, we have two kidneys. We have two kidneys. This is right, left kidney. Right and left kidney, due to any cause, I have to remove this. For example, the right kidney. So I removed one kidney. Now workload on this kidney will increase. What will happen? The cells of the kidney, the nephrons, they will have to undergo hyperplasia. And help you in doing a compensatory hypertrophy, a compensation. So this will give you a compensatory hypertrophy. So you have a compensatory hypertrophy happening. Once you are removing one kidney, you are increasing the load on this kidney to filter the urine, to produce the urine. So you will be having compensatory hypertrophy of the other kidney. Now if you are removing left kidney, compensatory hypertrophy will be of right kidney. Right kidney will look big. Was the test work more? Are we able to understand? Okay. So this is the concept. Second concept I can give you is megaloblast. Okay. Or I can tell you, let me tell you a virus first. The virus is cytomegalovirus, CMV. Cytomegalovirus, once it infects a cell, it increases the cell size. What happens is this cytomegalovirus, it will do such a mechanism that this cell will start taking more amount of iron and cell will grow more. Okay, so these are the another another thing is that once you were giving in the tuberculosis, you were giving a drug that is rifampicin. Okay, or you were giving phenobarbital, and not in TB. Phenobarbital you were giving, which was actually contraindicated in acute intermittent porphyria, isn't it? Phenobarb. So it was actually a delta ALA synthase inducer. What is happening is, your liver has two types of enzymes, that is microsomal enzyme, non-microsomal enzyme. And I told you in the pharmacology discussion, you have to check the lectures of Chambers Pharmacology, Basics of Pharmacology. I have taught there that microsomal enzymes are inhibited and induced. It's only the microsomal enzymes which can be inhibited and induced. So once you are increasing the microsomal enzyme, that means you are increasing the size of the microsome. Microsome is a microsome. Microsome will increase. That means your drug will be metabolized more. That is what is happening in the enzyme inducers. Once you give a phenobarbital, or an alcoholic even. Alcohol is also an inducer of this, or you have rifampicin. They will cause, or griseofulvin, isn't it? I taught you that. So they will cause induction of the enzymes. So once they induce the microsomal enzymes, the liver enzymes, microsomes will metabolize the drug, that its own substrate, the substrate will get metabolized more. The substrate will get metabolized more. So that means you are doing what? You are doing the same concept. Are we able to understand? Okay. So also that organ, if that organ is more active, that will itself get hypertrophied, because you are increasing, workload and everything on the organ. So that can also happen. So this is the concept you have to remember from hypertrophy. And this pathological hypertrophy, these two questions are, everyone should know, this kidney and this left ventricular hypertrophy. Okay. So in hypertrophy also there should be, now you are producing more. So I told you sarcomeric genetic expression is increasing. There is also increase in the growth factors. The growth factors are also increasing. Remember that. Growth factors will be increasing, which are required for this trophic stimuli to happen. Okay. So these are the concepts you have to remember about the hypertrophy. So I hope you have understood this. So next discussion we will be continuing the adaptations. So please read the books. Wherever you find problem, please let me know. Thank you very much and have a nice day. God bless you. Bye bye.